Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Deciphering My Experience. My name is Eric, and today I want to bring up the subject again of directed energy weapons. I haven't discussed that in a bit, but it's been coming back to the forefront of the conversation as of late that I've been seeing in some corners of the internet. And it's a topic that I've been trying to get everybody to pay more attention to, and something that I've been seeing as problematic for decades now. If we go back not that long ago, I would say that we can follow the history of directed energy weapons to the police and the tasers. Directed energy weapons are being presented contemporarily as non-lethal force, weapons of non-lethal force. And sadly enough, they're being presented as devices of communication as well. But let's go back to the tasers and the stun guns and the idea that the police force didn't want to shoot everyone. Hey, what a novel concept. But they also, I guess, weren't good at fist fighting anymore or using billy clubs, and there was too many lawyers involved. I don't know all of the details. I'm not an expert in everything. But there was a time and place where we started to get the conversation of non-lethal force being brought into the conversation. And then we started getting implements of non-lethal force, the tasers and the stun guns and such. And the study showed that as the police were given these implements, that they wound up using them more and more. Circumstances that required less than lethal force didn't exist in the numbers until the weapon of less than lethal force began to be applied, if you're following me there. So what they wound up finding out is that instead of drawing a gun at the right time to draw a gun when lethal force was required, now it turns out police officers, they basically just pull out a taser and tase you rapidly, would be the suggestions of some, and the numbers and the studies for people looking into it. So the fear that I have is that when we hand these weapons over to people, that they're extremely powerful and there's a high possibility for them to be abused. And that's on a very local level, individualized, direct contact with the user, so to say. A police officer has to walk up to you. They pull out this directed energy weapon, which is not wireless at this point for all practical purposes. It's just a wired directed energy weapon. They shoot you and they put you down, and the idea is that it's less than lethal force. It's not intended to kill you, is what the gist of that, right? But people do actually die from this type of encounter. So even though it's not intended to kill people, we know that it absolutely can and has killed people. Those numbers are very hard to find. Some people have done due diligence, not necessary for this report in the direction that I'm headed. But with that being said, I just want to remind people that they can be abused, and even though the intention is not to harm or kill, these items have the potentials, or at least we can debate as to whether they have the potentials. But this is the conversation that I want to have. And now, as an example of the weapons of the modern day world that we have to deal with, I have a video clip for you just to show you what I'm talking about with the excessive use of force potentials. So let's follow along right here with me. Let's go to that one, actually. And here we go.
Another point. Tonight, Mayor Wheeler says he told police not to use a device that emits a loud sonic tone that they use for crowd control.
It's actually called the LRAD device, and earlier today, police demonstrated the device for members of the press. They say it is primarily a communication tool, but the warning tone can be used to defend themselves in immediate safety situations. And last night, police say they deployed it twice when lasers were pointed at the LRAD truck driver and rocks and bottles were thrown at the truck. Police acknowledge it can be dangerous, but not, they say, when it's used correctly.
It's all situational, and there have been cases around the country. We've heard reports that other police agencies have used it in ways that potentially have caused hearing damage. Again, I can't speak to those. You just have to be reasonable about how far the crowd is, how long you're using it, and how high it's turned up.
So far tonight, police have not used the sonic tone. It's also important to remember that the mayor is the police commissioner here in Portland, so his order to not use that isn't simply just a request.
How to stop buffering issues anywhere.
Well, there you have it,
anytime.
folks. Right from the horse's mouth, the mayor said not to use it. The folks used it anyway. And it just is what it is. And the fact of the matter is that the LRAD was initially brought into, I guess, the market back when the USS Cole had gotten attacked, and they were looking for a way to stop that at great distance. And they came across this system that the Navy was looking into for long-range targeted communications. The LRAD stands for Long-Range Acoustic Device. And the idea was that ships would be able to speak to each other secretly by transmitting their communications linear in a straight line instead of radiating outward to have their transmissions stolen. But in the process, they learned that this communications device can be turned up to such high levels as to also be crowd control and dispense people. So what we saw in the news clip was that the police officers just simply got scared by a crowd, okay? And you heard them say they were throwing bottles and there were laser beams. I get that. I understand the potentials that the police officers were looking at, okay? Theoretically, laser beam is a laser sight, and that's a possible weapon being aimed at them. I get that. Or it's a laser pointer, and it means nothing, okay? But they're not supposed to be the judge and jury, and what they're not supposed to be doing is flipping a switch on in their moment of terror and adjusting the knobs to now implicate everyone around them, technically, is what I got out of that news story, was that the officers got scared and they took this weapon of war and then now used it against American people. And the questions will always be at what level, for how long. There is permanent ear damage that can occur in 8 seconds if somebody's been exposed to 120 decibels of sound for a period of 8 seconds, sustained or longer. You can and most likely will have permanent ear damage. And these LRAD devices, to the best of my knowledge, the police force can get, I think, up to the 450 XL model, which will go darn near close to 160 decibels. This is eardrum splitting stuff. Permanent ear damage can be applied immediately if they wanted to. And that's just the LRAD, folks. So they've already been deployed onto into U.S. cities, I should say, and used against us. So, and then we have another item that I wanted to show you as well, and this is known as the active denial system. It's extremely similar to the portability of the LRAD, and functionally it's extremely similar, the ability to pinpoint and either decide on if you want to hit a singular target or take out a crowd at great distance. But let's just take a quick look at ad for the active denial system.
Marines and several other DoD representatives had quite the heated demonstration at Quantico, Virginia from the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate.
This is a military area. Move away from the perimeter. I say again, this is a military area. Move away from the perimeter.
Their new active denial system boasts a reach far beyond any other non-lethal system.
Well, it's a versatile system, and it has a range of non-lethal capability that we can't even come close to with any of our fielded systems today that are in our military forces.
About 7 football fields to give it some perspective. It can deter individuals on a military perimeter all the way up to a riotous crowd, all without permanent harm.
It only penetrates 1/64 of an inch of your skin, goes very shallow into where your nerve receptors are, and there's no permanent injury caused by it. Very safe system. We've built in some safety margins and training for the operators.
They even let any of the guests volunteer to test out its effectiveness and safety, including the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Most described it as feeling like a hot oven or grill being opened up.
It is something that, once again, probably the safest system that we've developed as far as the non-lethal capability.
From Washington, I'm Sergeant Andrew Milner.
Very interesting, folks. So, here we are looking at two technologies that we're being told are so extremely safe and can't hurt people, but they're so highly effective. It makes me wonder, coming from the perspective of the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is a very safe weapon, according to what we're being told. Am I allowed to get these since they're so safe? I mean, I understand that, you can have a riotous mob that might need dispersing. But in the grand scheme, I'm allowed to purchase a rifle to defend myself against tyranny. So the theory being that a tyrannical government might use its weapons of war against me and those that I love and care to protect. So, am I allowed to purchase an LRAD? And am I allowed to raise funds to get an active denial system under the pretense that a well-regulated militia should be as armed as its opponents? I mean, what if at some point a tyrannical government did attempt to thwart the free speech of people by dispensing crowds in a new way? Would it be wrong for those people, if their First Amendment rights were being infringed upon in said fashion, to return fire with such safe communication devices? Like, if someone's trying to communicate, like, we don't want you here, can we simply just return the message, we don't want you here more? I just wonder, because these weapons hidden as communication devices seem to only be communicating one thing to me, is that your voice is not welcome and you should go away. But I'm very curious to see what other people think about the LRAD and the active denial system. And, what do you think? Should I be allowed to have one? Should you be allowed to have one? The powers that be have them. We were told many years ago that the drones, which were military-grade weapons of war, would not be flown on U.S. soil. And yet we have them. And now, here we are. We're just going down another road. We were told that the LRAD would never be used on American soil. And lo and behold, it was used. Are we going to have the active denial system rolling around the streets soon? I've seen them locally here in Alaska. I've seen the Humvees rigged up with the ADS system on them. So they're out there and they're ready to roll. And apparently, if they don't like what you're saying, they will communicate to you with said communication device that it's time for you to leave the battlefield. So good luck, folks. World War III is getting a bit more complex, and if you weren't aware of these things, pay more attention. The technology is teaching us a whole bunch of stuff really fast. But my name is Eric. This is Deciphering My Experience. Please like, subscribe, share, ring the bell. If you're looking into CBD products, check the links below, and talk to you guys again soon. Got some more interviews coming up, and should be a great day. I got a lot of snow to shovel, so that's where I'm headed to next. Thanks for coming.